Trying to get my stuff straight here yet. All right, I think I did. Sweet. I got it. All right. So hello, everybody. All right, so this one is all about intuitive kids and psychic kids and all that good stuff. And as a mom of two kids, we're going to be talking a little bit about kind of how this all came to be, and then how to be able to best help your kids. Because I know I have a lot of parents that just as of recently are really coming to me going, hey, pretty sure my kid is kind of like you, but I don't know how to help them, or I don't know quite what to do. So this is what's really good. So this is pretty interactive. You guys will notice that there's a chat bar. So at any point in time, if you have questions, go ahead and ask, because this is pretty interactive. I like to do the interactive stuff. So I talk with my hands, and sometimes my camera, there it goes, won't focus very well. Let me get my chair right. Hang on. Oh, there we go. Okay. So I was actually out on the floor. So I had to say goodbye to my staff just a little bit. So, and then I told them to lock me in. So hopefully I won't be bothered too much here. Usually I try to do these more at home. But with me working here today and the weather being really crap outside, I thought, well, I'll just stay here. But sometimes there is a ghost here in Awakenings, and sometimes he gets a little risky. So hopefully he'll just be nice and play nice. But we had a little talk before, so we should be good. Okay, I don't know if you guys have ever read Dolores Cannon's book about the three waves of volunteers. What I'm going to be talking about is not really kind of based on that book. It's really kind of based on what I've been seeing. Again, I see patterns. I've been doing this for over 10 years. So I see a lot of patterns with different types of intuitive children. But there are three basic types of intuitive kids we're going to be talking about. And that's the indigo child, the crystalline child, and the rainbow child. And I really hesitated on doing this. And Have be real with you why. Because a lot of times parents' egos have the tendency to get in the way. And they're all like, well, I have a rainbow child, and I have a rainbow child. You have an indigo. So not one is any better than the other. Each intuitive person has their own place in the orchestra, so to speak. So I know my place, and I'm just lucky enough to know my purpose, right? So, but everybody who is intuitive is going to be able to pretty much resonate with what I'm talking about here. So like I said, there are three different types of intuitive kids, and how this kind of came to be was Nancy Ann Tapp was, she's a psychic medium that has something called synesthesia. Now, synesthesia is kind of when your senses are a little backwards. It's like you can see sound, or you can taste words, or it's kind of when your brain is just a little bit backwards. I'll tell you, the longer I've been doing this, I too kind of get like, I don't know, anytime I go by a church, it tastes like honey. So, or when I go by a cemetery, or like a bigger cemetery, it actually tastes like silt. And back in the horticulture class, we had to actually taste dirt, so we knew the texture of it. And sometimes texture is better in your mouth than it is actually in your fingers, right? So I can actually taste that silt. That's how I know I'm driving by a cemetery. I can have my eyes closed and I know that. So she had this thing called synesthesia, and she was the one that kind of coined the term indigo. And indigo basically is put the color or the auric field that's coming out of a person, of a living thing. Every living thing has an aura, even trees. So the biggest thing is that she kind of came up with that terminology. And a lot of this, I'll talk about, like, this kind of started really after World War II. So after World War II, a lot of people died in World War II. Well, they were reincarnated as peace-loving little hippies, right? They were the complete opposite of what they went into war for. So they became little hippies. Those hippies were kind of what we call like they were the first type of indigos to kind of infiltrate the field, so to speak. So they were known as scouts. Unfortunately, they got a little bit too happy on the LSD and the mushrooms and the weed, and they kind of lost track a little bit. And then they ended up having children, and those children are now indigos. And so I'm an older type of indigo. but I am considered an indigo. I'm actually considered an indigo warrior. So there's different, like, I don't know, maybe levels, if you want to call it that, maybe more intensities. But there's indigos, and then there's crystal children, and then there's, like I said, rainbow. But two indigo people coming together, or an indigo and somebody else who's not enlightened, they have the opportunity to possibly create then a crystal child. Usually crystal children don't choose dysfunction that much. And then we'll talk about the rainbow kids and how they kind of came about. So just understand the indigos were kind of the first front runners. The hippie generation was the scouts. Like I said, they kind of got burnt out, sidetracked, and then we came along. So I'll tell you, indigos, we all share a lot of similarities, and there's about 10, 12 things that all of us intuitive kids, we all have the same thing. So number one is that we have an affinity to Mother Nature. We love to be outside. As a matter of fact, we prefer it. And if we don't get outside, we're not very happy. So being outside is a big deal for us. And we love to be around trees, plants, anything living outside. Another thing that we all have in common is we collect crystals. We will bring rocks outside, inside all the time. So what I tell parents to help with this is give them a shoebox. So anything that fits inside the shoebox, they can keep it. And trust me, they're going to collect sticks, pine cones, rocks, anything that they can bring in. If they keep it inside the shoebox, they can keep it. If it's outside the shoebox, it goes outside, right? So the biggest thing is understand that the reason why they're collecting those is because they still hold energy. So if they can't get outside because the weather is really crappy like it is today, then they're probably going to go just play with their pine cone or play with some sticks or those rocks. And what they do is naturally ground them back down to Mother Nature, to Earth. So let us collect our rocks. Yes, you might wash them a lot, but just give us our rocks. If a child gives you a rock or a crystal, you take it. Children innately know what that crystal is going to do for them. They don't know how they know, they just know. So same with you. If a child hands you a crystal and says, here, you need this, take it. Take it, because you probably do need it. And he or she doesn't know why they're giving it to you, but there's always a reason why you would need that particular crystal. And I bet if you look up the meaning or what it does, I bet it's really going to resonate with you. Another thing that we have the tendency to do in highly intuitive children is we walk on our tippy toes. And yes, that counts as Asperger's and autism too. So yep, they usually on their tippy toes, but guess what? They're some of the most intuitive ones out of the bunch. So we usually walk on our tippy toes way later than normal. I mean, even in the junior high. And then we start to go through puberty, and usually we kind of go heel toe. But some of them, you'll even notice in high school, they're still walking on their tippy toes, and their clouds are literally in the air. So when they're walking on the tippy toes, they're not grounded. They're not grounded. They need to go outside and play. That's the easiest way to ground down and get your head out of the clouds and get logical. Another thing that they really have in common is delayed speech patterns. They don't talk right off the bat. And the reason why is because they prefer to do everything telepathically. So that's why a young baby or a child would put their third eye to your third eye. It's because they want to communicate with you. It's because they're trying to talk to you telepathically. And get this, if you don't talk to them, they're going to headbutt you. They headbutt you because they're frustrated because you're not listening to them. So usually with those type of kids, best to start doing sign language, like, milk, things like that. Sign language is excellent for kids that just have those delayed speech patterns. Don't sweat it, mom and dad. They'll catch up. They really will catch up. By the time kindergarten hits, usually we're just caught up with the rest of everybody else. We just have the tendency to be a little stubborn sometimes, and we don't want to talk right away. Another thing is that we do have issues with varying sleep patterns. Very common between the ages of 2.5 and 5 years old to have night terrors. Those night terrors many times are them remembering how they died in previous lives or events that may have happened in previous lives. So a lot of times what I tell parents is, just pray before you go to bed at night that they don't need to remember that. That actually helps out a lot. Another thing is dream catchers work excellent, but have your child pick out the dream catcher, and they're probably going to pick out one that they would never normally pick out. So let them pick out a dream catcher and they will tell you exactly where to put that dream catcher. You put it exactly where they say. They know energy better than you do. So put it right there. Another thing that you can do with kids that are having issues with sleeping at night is make sure that their bed is not in a corner. So corners hold a lot of residual energy. They hold energy, and you're basically putting their head in a corner, which is going to tap them in. So just think about it. If we had a pyramid on our head, it would act like an antenna. So we don't want to put babies or kids' heads in corners. I know sometimes we don't have a lot of room and we got to make do with what we have. If that's the case, put their feet in the corner and their head away from the corner. That usually helps a lot. The other thing too is that if they're still having trouble sleeping, a lot of times they are going to need some background noise. Now, here's the kicker with this one, parents, is that white noise machines are well intended, yes, but when I was a child, I would turn it on channel 2, the fuzzy channel, the black and white snow channel. I would turn it on there because it was easier for me to talk to my spirit guides that way. It was a way of me of raising vibration. It helped me to tune in to what they were saying. So the white noise machines, I'm going to tell you, are great, but not really under the age of 5. So those are great for adults, not so much for kids. A lot of times they are going to have some background noise. They're going to request it. They're going to want it. Let them have it. So whether that's maybe a soft TV or some music. And the reason why is because we hear whispers and we don't want to hear whispers. We want to sleep. Many times we're going to have like some sort of routine that we need to do before we go to bed. So the closet has to be closed, the light needs to be on, the covers have to be a certain way, my bunny has to be over here, like everything has to have its place. And the reason why is because when we wake up at 3 a.m. and stuff is moved around, we're going to freak out because we know somebody's in our room, but we can't see them, we can't hear them, but we can feel them. So let them have their routine. And if that means it takes 10 minutes for that routine, well, then we get ready 10 minutes earlier. So let them do their routine. I still, to this day, you can ask my husband, I still need a nightlight and I still sleep in a burrito. So I don't want anybody talking to me. I just have my burrito and I have my feet covered. So that's just how I've been, always been that way. So kids usually will request that too. So another one is that I want to make sure that if parents are having troubles with kiddos sleeping, saging the house, sage, Palo Santo, whatever you need to do, that really helps to get rid of any residual energy, especially for the more sensitive kiddos like the rainbow kids and the crystal kids. It really helps to get rid of that residual energy. So again, you're kind of putting up a boundary as well to anybody who is not for their highest good. So anybody who might have died on the Mormon Trail or the Oregon Trail isn't going to come talk to your kiddo, because kids, especially under the age of 5, are bright little beacons just like me. And they see our brightness and they're like, hey, maybe they can help us get home. And I'm like, no, we don't need to have that for our kids. No. So by saging, it keeps their beacon nice and bright, and it still allows our loved ones to come through and say hi once in a while, but it keeps out anybody who shouldn't be talking to our kids, right? So so somebody's asking if you don't like the smell of sage, do Palo. So my son doesn't like sage either, so I do his room in Palo Santo, fine. So, and if that doesn't work, we can do some sage spray. We do have monster spray here at the store for little kids that feel uncomfortable. But basically the monster spray is sage spray. It's been blessed. So let them squirt before they go to bed. If that makes them feel comfortable, fine. So, but like I said, the biggest thing is Palo Santo. Incense is fine. Sage spray, just something to help them with their room. Okay. So the other thing that they, outside of having sleep issues, which many of us do sleepwalk, that's just weird. That's kind of part of what we do, because we're able to astral travel very easily. And sometimes our bodies and our brains get a little confused and we think we're astral traveling, but we're not, we're walking. It's weird. So it's very common for kiddos like me to be able to just sleepwalk quite a bit. Another thing that we all have in common is we have really big eyes. So yes, I have big eyes. But naturally intuitive kids that keep that intuition the entire time, they have big eyes. So you'll even notice the kids born nowadays have their eyes are bigger than their head. So they have huge eyes. So it's just it just seems to be that's a common denominator or factor with a lot of intuitive kiddos. Another one is that we have the tendency to easily believe in the esoteric. So we have no problem believing in Bigfoot, fairies, mermaids, dragons, unicorns. Sure, sure. So, and as a matter of fact, we're rather infatuated with them sometimes. So understand that's another trait that all three of these intuitive children have in common. And then lastly, they're really, really naturally creative. So if we don't get out our creativity, it's a lack of balance in our brain. So our logic is in the left brain, creativity is the right brain, and it helps to balance this out. But we are naturally creative people. And if we don't get our creativity out, we're imbalanced and we just get real crabby quick. So let me go into some of the indigo traits and the things that we can do to help our indigo kiddos. And then I'll talk about the crystal kids, and then I'll talk about the rainbow kids. So I'm an indigo, so I'm going to talk about indigos, but a lot of times I'm going to say we because, well, they're on my team, right? So understand that we each have different roles. So indigos are here to break down the old system and the system of politics, of the school system, the healthcare system, the like I said, healthcare, political system, school system. So we are here to change that. We're going to do that by leading with truth and integrity. So if you lie to an indigo, we'll cut you at your knees and we will jam truth down your throat. If you lie to a crystal kid goes, why would you lie to me? Do you not trust me? Am I not trustworthy? Am I not good enough? What did I do to you that you wouldn't tell me the truth? So that's a crystal kid. And indigo's like, nah, and we're gonna get out the sword. So we're here to destroy the old system. And the crystal kids are here to rebuild that system. All righty. So that's their job. And then we have the rainbow kids coming in that are amazing. And they are like peace loving little hippies with a little spice. So I'll explain that here in a minute. But I wanted you to understand the three roles that we are here to do. Like I said, indigos destroy the old system. Many indigos that are my age are in politics. They're on the school boards. They are in the school systems as principals, as teachers. A lot of these are in the healthcare system as doctors, administrative, nurses. So they're not taking any crap. So the ones that are raising a stink right now, those are the indigos. Those are the indigos. That's why you're hearing a lot of the stuff about political stuff and the school boards not vibing with the schools and with hospitals not vibing with their staff. So you're starting to see that little bit of a break, but that's what indigos are here to do, is to break the system, because we need to change the system for those rainbow kids that are coming up. All righty. So let's talk about the indigos. Most of us indigos started coming around about 1975. So I was born in 76. So I'm considered an old indigo. There are some other indigos out there that are older than me. Those are considered scouts. So those are indigo scouts. Understand that we are extremely headstrong, stubborn, and very strong-willed, very strong-willed. The hardest part of raising an indigo is, remember, we're here to fight and destroy old systems with truth and integrity. However, we don't do authority very well. We don't. And a child, if it's a girl, her authority figure in the house is her mother. So if it's a boy, the authority figure is the father. So they're going to battle the same sex parent. So we are not easy children to raise. We are not easy kids. We come from dysfunction. In a weird way, we need to have dysfunction growing up so we can learn our lessons, get over it, use those lessons to be able to break down those systems. So indigos come from a broken home. or dysfunctional home, or we don't have easy lives. We're not supposed to. We're not supposed to. Now, after we go through a spiritual awakening, that's different. But most indigos will get in trouble, especially when we get bored. So if we get bored, we're getting in trouble. That's what we do. So understand that that's a very common trait for us. Okay. So we're very, very strong willed. And if mom, for instance, my mother, okay, I'll take that. This is good. So my mom is an empath. So I'm not. Okay. She's the opposite of me, and she's my authority figure. So when my mother starts this sentence with, you need to, no, we just started a fight. Just by her saying that, you need to. Remember, I'm here to rebel against authority, right? So she's the authoritative figure, opposite energy, being an empath, saying you need to. Now she's doing it because she's a mom and she's doing it out of love. I get that, but you can't tell an indigo what to do. So if you're the same sex parent and you know that you have an indigo child, start this sentence with I think it's a good idea for you to go clean your room, and then they'll go do it. But if you're like, you need to go clean your room, why do I got to clean my room? His room ain't clean. Your room ain't clean. Why do I got to clean my room? So that's how we react. So again, start the sentence with I think, I need, I feel. That goes with a partner who's also an indigo. Like I can't tell Eric, you need to go take the trash out. He goes, did you just command and demand me to do something for you? I'm like, no, I said that wrong. I said it wrong. My bad. So it matters not what you say, it matters how you say it to an indigo. All right. I think, I need, I feel. That indigo will do whatever you want. So if you started with you need to, no, that's a direct authoritative command, and we will not do it internally. We won't. And as a matter of fact, we'll rebel against it. And if we don't rebel against it, we will sit there and tell you why we continue to do something stupid, even though we know it's stupid. We're still going to defend it just because you just said it wrong. So that's how an indigo works, right? So another one is that we are extremely independent. We do not like to ask for help. So if you try to help us, we're going to get mad. We're going to get mad because we need to make the mistakes ourselves. Even though mom and dad can see the train coming down the track, let us get hit by the train. We'll take it. If we get hit by the train, we're like, my bad. We'll shake it off. That's it. We're done. We ain't going to talk about it. We're good. So, but if you try to rescue us off that track before the train hits, we're going to resent you for it and we're going to blame you. So don't obscure our lessons. We have to learn the hard way, not the easy way. We always have to learn the hard way. We learn best by school of hard knocks. All righty. Another one is that we need to know why on everything. If you can't explain why to an indigo, done. We ain't listening. No, we don't believe you. We don't believe you. Remember, we do everything by truth and integrity. If you don't explain to me why you need me to help you with something or do something, I'm going to ask you why. And if you don't give me a good enough reason, I'm either going to debate you or I'm flat out just going to say, no, thanks. No, thanks. Like I said, we are why people. We always have to ask the why. So even now, and I think that's what made me such a good reader, because I'm like, why does somebody get sick? If nothing in this world is random, why? There has to be a why. So that's what indigos always ask why. Indigos naturally have issues with rage and anger. And again, usually if we have rage and anger, it is because you're telling us what to do. So we don't like that. Like I said, I think, I need, I feel, okay, cool, I'll help you in a minute. Like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And if you come in and ask me again, we pop off, right? So we are naturally prone to addiction. So a lot of people have addiction issues, whether that's sexual, whether that's alcohol, weed, drugs, gambling, whatever. There's a lot of different addictive issues. And I'll tell you, if an indigo, there's two reasons why an indigo would be addicted to something. One, we are bored stiff. If we don't have goals in front of us, we get in trouble. An indigo has to have goals. So number two, it's because of trauma and we don't know how to resolve the trauma. We don't know how to fix the trauma. So we're going to go to that to ease the pain or the anger. Usually it's anger. So we're going to go in there. We have that issue with drugs and alcohol. usually because of the pain or the trauma that we haven't dealt with and that we just don't want to deal with. Alrighty. So that's pretty common with us too. Another one is that we are really high energy. We don't like to sit still very long. Most indigos are diagnosed with ADD and ADHD. The really good indigos have it. So I have ADHD. I've had it for years. So I will tell you that I don't think I've met anybody who is an intuitive like I am who doesn't have ADD, ADHD. The reason why is we're neurodivergent. We see things differently. So, but that also gives us an advantage when it comes to psychic readings, reading people. We're naturally psychic. Anybody who's ADD, ADHD is usually very naturally psychic. Same with autism and Asperger's. They are naturally intuitive as well. I'll explain that when we talk about the crystal kids. Next one is that we don't have a lot of patience. We don't have any patience. Let's be real. I've had to learn patience. Hold on one second. So I've had to learn patience, and that the only thing that I've learned patience through meditation. That's been the only damn way that I've learned it. And even now, it's still hard for me to sit still and be patient. That's still really hard for me. So, but that's just an indigo trait. That's just what we do. Another one is we love plants and animals, and we like people to a point. Indigos cannot handle stupidity. I can't do stupid. I can't. Those are the ones that I'm like, and then my brain goes, how are you able to survive in the real world? Like, how do you know how to tie your shoes? Like, I can't do stupid. We are very intolerant of stupidity. The other one is that we are either really overly emotional or devoid emotion altogether. And a lot of that is because we are internalizing it. We're thinking about it. We're trying to figure it out without feeling it. So the other one is that indigos do waver from grandiosity to like big ego to low self-esteem the next day. And it really depends on what hits us and how it hits us, I guess, the information. A lot of times indigos it's really easy for us to lucid dream, meaning that we can control ourselves in a dream, and astral travel within our dreams as well. So that's actually pretty common too. What about OCD? OCD is severe anxiety. So, and I'll tell you, Elizabeth, that means to tell me that somebody is probably around him that's narcissistic, who's also teaching him how to be a perfection because he doesn't want to upset anybody. I don't want to upset anybody, so I have to have everything freaking perfect. So I will tell you that if kids have issues, it's the parent's fault. Kids are born innocent. Kids are born innocent. So it's the parents that mess them up. So if a kid has severe anxiety, either somebody's teaching it to that person, to that kiddo, or it's because they have an abandonment issue. One of the parents isn't there, or one of the parents is, abusive or narcissistic or not giving the child what the child needs. So this is why I want to talk about these 3 different types of kids. So that way you're aware of how to help them the best way possible. The easiest way to discipline an indigo child is you put them in the room by themselves. That's it. You know what you did wrong. If you're 5 years old, you go in your room for 4 minutes, something like that, right? Not a whole big. You don't have, you can explain it. You're going to your room because you did X, Y, Z. You then put them in the room and you shut that door. And here's the deal. An indigo we're going to scream bloody murder to try to get out because we know how to manipulate at an early age. Not only that, we will act like something's wrong. Oh my gosh, something's wrong. Just so you can open up the door so we can negotiate our way out of it. So when you put a kid in the bedroom, you keep them in the room for that time until that timer goes off. So as my children got older, starting at about the age of 7, 8, when we can comprehend what I was saying, I would put them in the room, shut the door. And if they came out for any reason, hey, mom, I would tack on more time. And Paige was the worst. She's like, but mom, I'm like, nope, stop, go. Because they're going to try to tell you what's on their mind about like what they did wrong. And maybe you'd apologize. But nope, you do the crime, you do the time. So put them in the rooms by themselves, because we don't like to be alone per se, but we always like to try to explain to you what we did, why we did it, and what we were thinking. But it doesn't matter. If you said not to do it, it means not to do it. Discipline. All right. So putting them in a room by themselves is excellent. Crystal kids, way easier. So, but here's the deal with this intuitive, with the Indigo kids. You got to win every time, mom and dad. You have to win every time. No means no means no. The opposite sex parent, when it comes to an Indigo, the opposite sex parent has a huge bearing on the child. So if for instance, if my dad just looked at me and went, I'm really disappointed in you, crushed. If my mom's like, I'm disappointed in you, and I'm like, yeah, and so what? So again, she's the authoritative figure. She's trying to discipline me, ain't gonna work. Now my dad, that's legit. So it's no different than if mom said, you know what, I'm gonna call dad. I'm like, go right ahead. She calls him, and I'm like, oh man, I'm in trouble. So the opposite sex parent has a huge bearing on an Indigo's wherewithal, really, truly. So, and this goes with any child. The opposite sex parent has a huge bearing on the child. So if a child is having issues early on in the game, 9 times out of 10, it's because they have a parent abandonment issue. All righty, by the opposite sex parent. All right, let's keep going. Another one is that Indigos hate repetition. This is why many Indigos struggle in school, where you usually see students. You told that you're going to lecture, tell us all about it, and then you want us to read the book about it, and then we have to do a worksheet about it, and now we have to have a test on it. Are you kidding? That's so repetitive. We can't handle, we don't do very well with that. We don't. So usually we'll get the first 2 and we're like, yeah, good enough. That's good pictures. They are nice. Let's go. So understand, many times we don't like the repetition of school. And now that they took away recess, oh goodness, that's not good for an Indigo. Remember, we need to be outside. That grounds us down so quick, that takes away our energy, or takes away our anger very, very quickly. So that's why like recess is really important in school. Another one is that many times we have the tendency to be kind of EMF sensitive. So we can hear when the TV's on, even though there's nothing on. We have the tendency to blow out electronics, street lights, lights at home, watches, things like that. We're very EMF sensitive. Many of us are, because of our high energy and because of our aura, or our auric field being able to go out kind of in shock waves. And then another one is that the last one is that most Indigos prefer to work alone, or they're usually the leaders or the entrepreneurs. So we're natural leaders. We usually are. We don't like to be told what to do. That's why I own 2 businesses, because, well, I don't like to be told what to do. So, all right. So hopefully that kind of explains Indigos. Like I said, Indigos are not easy children. The opposite sex parent is the best bet when it comes to rules and discipline for the child. But again, when it comes to an Indigo kid, don't give them an inch, because they'll take a mile. They will, and they know it. And because we're smart. So we know how to get you. We know how to get you through guilt real easy. So, and we'll just say it. Lastly, I know, like, for instance, my mom is a high empath, right? Empaths are a huggy, kissy type of people. Indigos really aren't. If we want a hug and a kiss from our parents, it's because we don't feel secure. We have very low self-esteem. We're not feeling right. We're not feeling good or confident. So if we go get a hug, something's usually wrong, but we don't want to talk about it. We got it handled. We just want a hug, and just want a little hug, little snuggle, and then we're good. So that's different than a Crystal kid. But Indigos, we're just not huggy, kissy type of people usually. We're just not. So understand these 3 types of kids that I'm talking about. They may have a lot of empathy. They might have a little empathy. So there is an empathic scale on this. For instance, my best friend, Shannon, she's an indigo, empathic indigo. So I'm an indigo warrior. So she has more empathy than I do. She's still an indigo like me, but just like I said, more empathy. So she's more huggy kissy. So I'm not, but I can handle hers. So does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense of what I'm saying. Okay, let me see if I just recently diagnosed with ADHD and autism, neurofeedback therapy, delta waves. Yep. So, which is you're supposed to have those when you're sleeping. So that means just Lizzie, that you're like me. You're naturally intuitive. That's what that means. And if you were to hook me up to a brain monitor, I'm sure I would be completely abnormal too. So that's all right. We're supposed to be. That's what I'm like. We're not supposed to be normal. We're supposed to be abnormal. That's why God made us that way. Okay, crystal kids. Like I said, indigos, tough kids to raise, feisty, do everything with truth and integrity. Crystal kids, opposite. So two indigos come together to have a crystal kid. Now, the older crystal kids have a little bit of dysfunction in their family. The younger crystal kids, not so much. So, but when I say the younger crystal kids, I'm talking the younger crystals are about 10 or 11. So they're in households where parents won't divorce. All righty. So the older crystal kids might have had a little bit of dysfunction, meaning that they had a narcissistic parent, the parents divorced, something along those lines, maybe a little bit of abandonment issues, but they don't have nearly the dysfunction that the indigos have. But crystal kids do have it too. All righty. So crystal kids have the tendency to be, they wear their hearts on their sleeve. They wear the hearts on the sleeve. Those are the ones that are they're snuggle bunnies. They just want to sit next to you and be like, hello. So they're just sweethearts. But remember, they're here to come up with a new system. They got little Einstein minds. So they're here to solve the problems of what might be wrong. For instance, I'll give you a great example. My son, at the time, I think he was like 7 or 8, and I gave him $5. I'm like, hey, run inside Walgreens and why don't you go grab a gallon of milk? And he just looks at me and he goes, I don't know why if you get like 3 items or less, you can't just go through the drive-through right there and they can just, do one of those things and give it to you through the, the spinny thing and you can just give them money. And I was like, dude, that is a brilliant idea. And he goes, but why don't they do that? I'm like, because it hasn't been invented yet. So that's what I mean by a crystal kid. They come up with solutions like this and you're just going, ah. So when it comes to inventions, oh yeah. These are the kids that are making these awesome machines for the ocean and cleaning it all up. They are very humanitarian based, very earth based, environmentally based. They care about that stuff. They really do. They care about climate change. So they also have the tendency to be awesome counselors because, again, they are here to help people with problems. They're the solutions people. Let's see. Most of my crystal kids really do speak later in life. Indigos do to a point till about 3 years old. Some of the crystal kids are not talking till they're 4 or 5. And you're like, whoa. They'll catch up. Like I said, no big deal. Crystal kids have the tendency to be allergic to everything. They're allergic to pollen. They're allergic to clothing. They're the kids that can't do tags. They're very texture sensitive. So those are the kids that'll put it in their mouth and spit it right back out. And as they get older, they'll just stick their finger in their food and move it around and be like, no, I'm not going to eat that. It's not the taste. It's not the flavor. It's the texture. They're very texture sensitive. So the crystal kids are the ones that I tell parents, I'm like, Benadryl at the ready. We want to keep Benadryl around because they very well could get into something like strawberries and just get hives all over. So those are the type of kids we want to keep Benadryl around for. My son is a crystal kid. He has seasonal allergies, and around Easter time, around now, is when the pine starts to candle, and he's allergic to pine. And so, of course, it's baseball season. Poor guy's just miserable right now. So Claritin and Benadryl to the rescue. Oftentimes, crystal kids have a weird affinity to music. Many times they'll sing and hum before they even speak. So music is extremely soothing to them, or the opposite, too loud, too loud. So those are the kids that don't like the 4th of July because of the loud booms. Those are crystal kids. They don't like that. They can't handle that. Many times crystal kids, when they're shopping, prefer to have their hoodies up. They don't like to have this area exposed. I don't either. There's something with that. I don't know really why, but if we can put in earphones inside my coat, I actually have these earplugs. They're called Loop, Loop. I got them on Amazon. I'll put those in my ear, and I'm able to go shopping that way. So the noise doesn't bother me as much. And it also makes me feel like I have a blanket over me, even though I don't. There's something with our ears and our throat chakra that we don't necessarily like that exposed when we go shopping, because it feels like we're walking around naked. Even though we're not, we know that we're not, but that's not how it feels. It feels like we're walking around naked and all eyes are on us. So when we're in a strange place with strange people, our aura or our auric field goes out really far to protect us. And as a result, anybody who walks within that auric field makes us, we can feel it. We can feel their energy. We feel if they're happy, sad, bitter, angry. And so after a bit, we're done. We're spent. So that's why a lot of times crystal kids, when they're done, they're done. They will fall asleep. They will curl up into a ball. They will scream to do whatever it takes to get them out of that situation. But usually it's sheer exhaustion. Like when they're done, they crash, they sleep. They just sleep, and they'll sleep anywhere, doesn't matter. Bottom of a shopping cart, no matter. That, like, when we're done, we're done. So they can only handle other people's energy so much. So those are the kids that a lot of times before you even walk in the door, they're like, they just start to get really fidgety. And a lot of times a phone is not a good enough distraction. It's really not. So many times I've noticed crystal kids, just watching them, they'll want to hold a rock before they walk in the door. And moms are always like, put the rock down. I'm like, I'm telling you what, mom, let the kid have the rock. So what I did with my child, with Steven, I'm like, you can have the rock, but you have to be responsible. And when we're done, you have to put it back. And he's like, okay. I'm telling you, he would just hold it. Never did he throw it. Never did he chuck it at his sister. He held it. And when he was done, he put it outside. So that's very soothing. So let us have their hoodies, their earplugs, their earphones. There's a reason for it. It covers the crown and it covers our throat chakra, and it makes us feel more comfortable. All right. So many times they wear hoodies all the time, and their hoodies are up. And we don't care if it's 90 degrees. We don't care. We don't care. No, that hoodie is going up. So I've just found that those loop earrings work, or the loop earplugs work very, very well. They are really, crystal kids are really good healers. They know when you're not feeling well, and they're like, "Are you okay?" And you're like, "Buddy, I'm all right." But they are genuinely concerned about your health, and they're easy, natural healers. Crystal kids know Reiki innately. Rainbow kids are freaky. They're different. They'll go right up to you, touch your knee because they know your knee hurts. So, and they'll put their hands right on your knee and not even move. And you're like, whoa, that's crazy. And it will actually feel better because they're giving you healing energy because they know they can do it. So whereas crystal kids will ask, are you okay? Not okay? Let me sit next to you. What they're doing when they're sitting next to you is they're trying to vibrationally pull their energy up as to tap in so they can actually do Reiki on you. So, and they know how to do it just like that. They're born knowing how to do it. So same with rainbow kids. Indigos, not so much, not so much. So we'll know if your feelings are hurt, but we don't care. Whereas crystal kids are highly empathic. So they know when something's wrong. Let's see here. They like I said, crystal kids, if you lie to a crystal child, they're truly offended. They're just like, but why would you do that to me? Like, I love you and I always tell you the truth. Why would you lie to me like that? Like they're literally almost like devastated that you would do that. So the biggest thing is that when it comes to a crystal kid, if they come up to you and they're like, "Hey mom," and you're like, "Hold on a second, don't do that. Don't do that." Because what a crystal kid will do, they'll eat their words and they'll go back into their room and they're like, "I shouldn't have bothered mom. I'm just a nuisance. I shouldn't have done that. I should have just left her alone." And then you walk in, you're like, "Hey, what'd you need, bud?" And they're like, "Nothing. It's okay." No, mom. No, mom. It's not okay. So if a crystal child comes to you and says, "Hey, mom," all you have to do, it's very simple. I don't care if you're whatever you have going on, just give them eye contact and say, "What you need, honey?" And then turn your head and then let them talk. So the big, and it doesn't matter what it is, but if you give them that time immediately, right then and there, that fulfills them. Whereas if a indigo does it, an indigo kid is like, "Hey mom," and you just say, "Hold on a minute." We're like, "Are you done? Are you done now? Mommy, mommy, mama, mama." That's an indigo. So a crystal kid will be like, "Hmm." And then they turn around, they go to their room. So big difference in the two. Big difference in the two. Most of the top tier of the crystal kids, autism, autism. So I don't think people understand. I can empathize with them because sound hurts. Loud sounds hurt. And if we are in sound like all day, like school, that's why a lot of times we don't want to talk when we get home. We just want to be left alone in silence for a little bit to deal with detox from that. Please understand your kids aren't able to get away. They're literally, think about it, as an adult, would you like to spend 8 hours trapped in Walmart? Because that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. So that's the biggest thing, is that understand that they can't necessarily get away. So many times when they come home, they don't want to talk. "How was your day?" "Fine. Just don't talk to me. Leave me alone. I got to go detox in my room with some silence here." So allow them to do that. Crystal kids are more sensitive. So saging the home, very important, because they will pick up on residual energy. Oh, quick. You have an argument with your husband and your kid walks through it. He's going to turn around and be like, why were you fighting? "How the hell did you know that? That was this morning." Oh, they know. Oh, they know. So sage and sage often for crystal kids. Let's see here. The other thing, sea salt baths are great for kids, especially if you're divorced and they spend time with dad and time with mom. Give them a half a day sea salt bath detox to be able to get back into a different mode or a different gear. It takes them a little bit longer than indigo kids. So indigos will flip flop fine. Crystal kids can't do that as easily as we can. So give them a little bit of time, and sea salt or any sort of salt bath is really going to help. Now, Epsom salt is good for sore muscles. Sea salt is good for energy, spiritual stuff. So any sort of salt, table salt works too. So, but give them a nice salt bath and just let them chill for a little bit. You want to put some bubbles in? Fine, it's fine. Totally cool. You will notice that a lot of my crystal kiddos are now adults and they're having children too. Now, a crystal kid can, two crystal parents or one crystal parent and an indigo parent, doesn't matter. They have an opportunity to have either crystal or an indigo. Okay. So these rainbow babies, they're a whole different bag. Let me go back just a little bit though and talk about the crystal kids. Easiest way to discipline a crystal child, eye to eye, get on their level and say, "Now, do you understand what you did wrong?" "Yes, I did." And many times, if you talk about how it hurt your feelings or it hurt their feelings, they get it. They get it. Minor discipline with those, because the opposite sex parent, if they do the eye to eye contact, that's all it's going to take. So words really are heard when it comes to crystal children. So the easiest way is do that eye to eye contact and be like, I'm really disappointed in you. I thought you would have done better and made a better choice. I know, mom, I should have done better. Okay. Usually crystal kids are very truthful. They're the kids that are like, "You know what? I broke the light. My bad." Steven does this all the time. So he's like, "Yeah, I know I shouldn't have been throwing a football inside the house. I broke the light." what do I need to do? And I'm like, nothing, things break. Like, how can he discipline a kid when he's honest? Right? So that's Crystal Kids. You may notice that your child could be both. Now, my daughter is both. She's half indigo, half crystal, and she will pull into the crystal or the indigo depending on the situation. So it depends on the situation with her. So she is not an easy kid to raise. So with that indigo trait, she's not easy. But with the crystal trait, her feelings get hurt so easy. And I've had to, as an indigo mom, I can't sit there and say, suck it up. She doesn't know how to do that. Her feelings are her truth. So many times as these crystal kids are getting older, they are having discrepancies, I guess maybe you want to say. They don't know if they're gay, straight, or bi. They have no clue. So they're coming to me for readings and going, I don't know what I am. And I will tell you, until they're 22 years old, which is when the brain is done developing, the frontal lobe is done, I always tell them, you know what, who cares? Nobody's judging this. You don't need to put a label on this right now. Your job is to figure out relationships, man or woman, doesn't matter. Your job is to figure out relationships and how they work. That's why we have high school. So we can figure all that out, because when we go into the workforce, we're going to be dealing with high schoolers anyway. So that is the point of that. But many times they love to love, and love doesn't have gender to them. So that's why you're seeing a lot of this like gender neutrality coming out right now. Those are the crystal kids. Those are the crystal kids. So those are the ones that really aren't coming from dysfunction necessarily. Some of them are, but the dysfunction would be like divorced parents, things like that. So the biggest thing I can tell you is many times they don't know who to love appropriately. I'm like, it doesn't matter. If they treat you like crap, obviously we're not going to date that person. I don't care if they're a girl or a boy. So I don't care. So that's the biggest one with the crystal kids. Indigos can fall into that trait a little bit, but usually if indigos do it, it's between the ages of like 18 and 21, and that's about it. So crystal kids, they really are confused very early on in the game. And it takes a while for them to really figure it out. And even then, they still kind of, well, I don't know. So it's fine. So in order to have rainbow child, it's a little bit trickier. I don't know if you guys have noticed, if I hear on TikTok, I just happen to come across it, is that there's like these nurses and teachers are noticing that these, they call them pandemic babies, they're different. They're smart. They're genius level smart. They're wicked smart. You're like, oh, hi, little baby. And the baby's like waving, and you're like, oh, what? Yeah, that's a rainbow kid. That's a rainbow baby. Big eyes, highly intuitive, very, very wise, very, very wise. Now, in order for somebody to have a rainbow child, there has to be two crystals, no indigos. There has to be two crystals. So two crystal parents, right? And each of those both crystal parents have to be enlightened at a stage 3 or a stage 4 or a 5. So one person can't be enlightened and the other one is, and you have, nope. Both parents have to be spiritually enlightened or spiritually awoken at a stage 3, seeing replicating numbers, at a stage 3, if not stage 4, in order to possibly have a rainbow child. Now, here's the fun little factoid about rainbow children, is right now there's only, if there's, for 4 children that want to come in to incarnate, it's 4 to 1. Only 1 is going to be picked out of the 4 to incarnate. So there's a lot of rainbow babies that want to come in. Those to me are true star seeds. And there's not, the crystal kids are only having 1 or 2 children, or none at all, which is fine. So, but just understand, there's a lot of them waiting to come on in to help, but we're not having that many babies right now. And that's okay. That's okay. They're the ones that are coming in, fine. So they'll lead the pack. Don't worry. But like I said, you have to have 2 crystal adults that are at a stage 3, if not stage 4, in order to be able to have the possibility of having a rainbow baby. All righty. So the rainbow children are the ones that very well possibly could find their twin flame. Crystal children and adults don't have twin flames. Okay. That is reserved for those rainbow kids because, like I said, they are magical. Now, rainbow kids, the oldest ones right now are about 7 years old. I haven't seen any more than 7. I haven't heard of any past that. But when they come in my store, I know it. There is a weird shift when they walk in. I can be in my office, and if one walks in, I'm going out here to figure out what the heck's going on because somebody's vibing high, and I can feel it. There is a shift of energy in the room when they walk in. And then the minute they see me, they look at me and smile, but they don't look at me, I guess maybe normal. They look at my eyes and then they look right here. They're looking at my auric field. So, and then when they're looking at me in the eyes, I feel absolutely naked, because they not only know what I'm here to do, they know all of my past lives. They know everything. And you're just like, well, I didn't ask you. So, but they are beautiful, beautiful souls, beautiful souls. They are a lot like crystal kids. They don't like tags, things. They're very texture sensitive, but they could care less about what they wear. They'll have one orange sock, one purple sock, a red tutu, and a pink shirt, and a tie-dyed bow, and they think they look good. Like they don't care. They are daredevils. The only thing that they don't understand is gravity because they're new. So they're really kind of klutzy. They're like a giraffe, like a baby giraffe. Like they're really klutzy because they haven't figured out gravity yet. But the one thing, they're klutzy, but at the same time, they're fearless. They have no problem going in the car with a stranger. They're like, what? Love is love. It doesn't matter. And I'm like, they're going to kidnap you. And like, they don't understand stranger danger. And their philosophy is, well, who cares? I die and go back to heaven anyways. I'll just come back in again. No, like, but that's really how they think. Like, they don't have fear. They really don't. They emit so much love. Fear is irrelevant. Number 2, they get actually mad because they can't manifest fast enough. I'm like, us indigos are still trying to figure it out. And they get mad because they think they should have instant manifestation. And if it doesn't happen, they're like, why not? Why not? I did everything I'm supposed to do. I'm like, no, you're human now. Welcome to 3D. Okay. So they get really upset and frustrated when they feel that they can't like manifest very, very quickly. It's weird. The other thing, and a lot of times that manifestation glitch is sometimes seen as stubborn. They're not stubborn. They're really not. I'm trying to think. They're really picky about their food. Really picky. I had a rainbow kid come in one time. He was 6. Sat him down. Mom was here. Mom and dad are farmers. Kid refuses to eat meat. Has never eaten meat ever. Never. And the mom was like, he's broken. I'm like, he just says he wants to talk to you. And I'm like looking at him and he's looking at me. I'm like, oh crap. And so he's trying to talk to me telepathically. And I'm trying to talk to his spirit guides. And I'm telling him, you be quiet because they know more than you. And he goes, just talk to me. I'm like, stop. So he was trying to get in my head. He was already there. So we had to stop that. But once I figured out the reason why he didn't eat meat, it made sense. Here's the deal. I said, okay, I have a question for you. He said, yes. I said, imagine 100 years ago, we were Native Americans and we were living in a teepee, you, mom, and dad. And you were very hungry and mom and dad were hungry too. And dad said, you know what? I'm going to take my bow and arrow and I am going to go try to find a deer or a bunny or something. So he said, okay, I love you. I'm going to go try to find this deer. So he went out hunting, he found a deer. The deer agreed to give his life for your family so you could eat the deer. And as a result, when dad brought the deer back, we said thank you to the deer. We said thank you for giving your life for us to be able to eat. So, would you eat the deer? Without hesitation, he goes, of course. Yes, I would. And I looked at the mom and I'm like, pray for the cow. Pray for the cow. So he understood that we did not give thanks to that cow for giving his life for him to eat. And he would not eat meat because of that reason. So he eats a little bit of hamburger now, but he will not eat pork at all. But he is the type of kid, rainbow kids, if you stick a veggie tray in front of their face, they love it. They won't eat anything else. They don't like processed food. They do not like hot dogs. They don't like anything processed. They don't care for pizza. A lot of times, if they do eat those foods, they get rancid guts really quick. It really upsets their tummies. So fruits and vegetables are often preferred, and they'll tell you that's what they want to eat. Very, very common with those type of kiddos. Let's see. Rainbow kids have no karma. They either haven't had any previous lives or they just have one life before this. So far, the 6-year-old that I was speaking with, he had one previous life, but he didn't live very long. He was only like 8 or 9 years old and then he died. So a lot of these rainbow children do not have previous lives. So therefore, they have no karmic debt. So as a result, they really don't have any karma issues. They're in the clear. So that's what makes them so different and unique. Let me see what else. A lot of times rainbow kids and crystal kids, but especially rainbows, they don't do very well with medical medicine. They do better with alternative medicine. Same with crystal kids. They're about 50-50. But here's the deal. We need medicine. I mean, you break your arm. We can't put oil on it for Pete's sakes. We got to get it fixed. So there is a place for medical medicine. But many times I've noticed that the crystal kids and rainbow kids are very allergic to just basic antibiotics. Just the basic stuff. They hide out horribly, or they have horrible reactions to different types of immunizations, different things like that. So it's just because their body is so sensitive, they can't really tolerate a lot of stuff one-on-one. So what I tell people is, here's the deal. I'm not necessarily anti-vax. I'm not. But with the crystal kids and the rainbow kids, you can't give them a bunch of vaccines all in one shot. It overloads their immune system so fast that the brain has to reset a little bit. So what I did with my kids is that, I really had to fight with the nurses on it, but I went in, I don't know, at least 10 different times, because I wasn't going to do 4 shots in one go with a little kid like that. I'm like, nope, we're going to do 1 shot. We're going to wait for 3 months. I'm going to come back. We'll do another one. We're going to wait. We'll do another one. So I really took my time with the immunizations for the body to acclimate itself with that, instead of just bombarding it. But remember, when we were kids, I'm in the 40s. So when we were kids, we had a third of the amount of immunizations now that these kiddos have. So like I said, sometimes their systems get a little overwhelmed. So you might want to pace that out a little bit. The other thing, like I said, with these rainbow kids is that they are natural healers, instant healers. So like I said, they know when something's wrong. They will go up to you and act really weird. And what they're doing right here, they'll be doing something like this. And you're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, they're fixing your auric field. You have a hole in your aura, so they're fixing it. Or they know that your throat hurts. And so they'll go up to the parents and do this and just hold their throat. Well, they're talking to them and giving them kisses, but you would never know that they're healing you. So they're good. They're real good. And then lastly, if they do get mad, they are mad for 30 seconds and boom, they'll forgive you just like that. But well, she didn't mean it. That's fine. They let it go. Like it's so quick. So what I tell parents a lot of times when it comes to these type of intuitive children, it is your job to teach your children reality. It's your job to teach them reality. So when they turn 18 years old, they're able to live on their own. Their job is to teach you spirituality. but you can't pull it out of them. They have to be able to have one parent that they can go to, that they can trust to talk about whatever comes up. Like I said, at Indigo, we'll tell you when something ain't right, but otherwise we're not going to talk about it. A Crystal kid might talk about it if they feel comfortable. A Rainbow kid will look at you very factually and be like, yeah, and like, of course, that's how it works. You didn't know that? So that's how the difference between those types of intuitive kids. So the biggest thing is, hopefully, like I said, hopefully and really Rainbow kids, they're so smart. You don't really have to discipline them. You just have to keep them occupied and challenge their mind, not keeping them busy, but challenge their mind. But these are the kids that are genius level already coming, they know their presidents by the time they're in kindergarten. You're like, really? So that's a Rainbow kid. They're coming in highly intelligent. So hopefully, like I said, with me talking with these three different types of intuitive kids and kind of how to handle them, hopefully this is really going to help you guys out. I will tell you, where parents get into trouble is showboating their children and saying, oh, well, this is a Crystal kid and, he's just a natural medium. So why don't you go ahead and read the room? Don't do that. I'm telling you, don't do that, because a child doesn't know if they're talking to somebody who is, the devil in sheep's clothing. They don't know. So you're giving them permission to open up, because nobody can affect your free will, but a parent cannot necessarily sometimes on a child. So I will tell you, do not showboat your child, because that is how negative entity attachments happen. That is how possession happens. That's not a good idea. So if a child wants to read somebody, they'll read somebody, but don't force them to do it. The child will pay the price. The biggest thing with the Rainbow Crystal kids, Indigos too, as a child, if you're like, hey, you need to hug your grandma and grandpa goodbye, and they hug grandma but not grandpa, there's a reason. So don't force them to show affection to people who make them feel uncomfortable. And it's not that grandpa's a bad guy. Grandpa just might be a little pissed off because he just had an argument with his wife. So kids can feel that. Intuitive kids feel it, and they're like, you know what? He's like a prickly cactus, and I don't want to get a hug right now. So don't force those type of kids to interact with people that makes them feel uncomfortable. So it's best to say, okay, that's fine. We're just going to say goodbye now. So like I said, hopefully this kind of straightens everything out here. I try to hit the main points so that way you guys could kind of understand these three types of intuitive, I say kids because us kids are now adults. So, but like I said, hopefully this kind of helps you understand what these types of children are here to do for our society. And we're here to change stuff. And in order for things to change, sometimes we have to destruct old systems. So change is going to happen, but don't worry, we have a plan. We have a plan. It's all good. So your job, just like my job, is to vibe as high as we possibly can, keep the energy up, keep the vibe up, keep you do you. So if you're not happy, you fix you first before we can offer those services to somebody else. So you work on you, vibe as high as you can, which means be happy. So be happy so that way we can all work together as a society and as a group to be able to make some change here. So because we're in an unprecedented time to where as a collective, we're able to go from a 3D world to a 5D world. And that's never happened in any galaxy. So it's a big deal. And we have some friends that are out there helping us out too, but we have to do the work, and the work isn't done yet. So, but many of us are enlightened, and many of us are ready to do the work. So what you need to do is, like I said, if you feel like you're more political, you're more in that humanitarian, you're more in the school system, you're more in the healthcare system, it's time to now start running on the boards. It's time for change, but we have to do it, remember, with truth and integrity. So that's why I'm like, start running for these bigger positions. So that way we can get the old out, get the new in, and we can start making some changes. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this answered a bunch of questions for you. And now you can kind of understand how to help out your intuitive kiddos. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Have a wonderful week, guys.